Previously on Reawaken Your Voice. And yet I felt boxed in. I felt like, okay, I'm just shaping my voice into what I think it's supposed to sound like to sing this specific kind of music and, fit this role and fit this specific category of voice, this type of voice. And my creativity kind of got squashed in there. But something else was calling to me, like I want to create from my own experiences and my own stories and write my own songs in a totally different style and use my voice in different ways. And I want to break the rules and be okay with it and not be told like you can only do it this way, you can only do it that way. Fast forward to today. Yes, I do feel like I've come to a point where I get to be free with my expression and use my voice the way I want to. I have this creative outlet that I can turn to. And perhaps that's something that you're longing for too. It's that freedom to express yourself through your voice and not by proxy through other people's music, through your own words, your own melodies, your own voice as a vocal artist, as a singer-songwriter. Welcome to Reawaken Your Voice. I'm Lainey Crawford, holistic voice coach, singer, song weaver. I believe the song in your heart holds medicine for yourself and for the world. And yet too often, something happens along the way. We shut down our voice and our song goes unsung. Whether you stopped singing years ago or have always harbored an unrealized dream to start, if you're ready to finally give voice to those unsung songs in your heart, then take my hand as I guide you to free yourself from the inner critic, reignite your creativity, find your courage, sing with confidence, and reawaken those dormant parts of yourself aching for a revival. So dust off your songbooks, tune up your guitar, bust out your singing bowls, your shakers, your drum. Actually, all you really need is your voice, your breath, open ears, and an open heart. Let's play. So if this is something that you want for yourself, this creative outlet of songwriting, something that you are feeling drawn to explore, however deep you are in it, or whether it's, maybe it's just an idea at this point. Here are 4 questions to get you started with diving into this creative process and really developing and honing this skill of songwriting. Number 1, what do you need? Like in terms of all the moving parts and pieces, what do you need to create a song, to write a song? Well, first of all, inspiration. It all begins with an idea, right? So an idea or a feeling that you want to express, a phrase or words, like why are you writing this song and what do you want to say? Now, you're an artist. This part comes at you like a fire hose sometimes. And sometimes it feels like it's run dry. We can experience both ends of that spectrum and everything in between. But yeah, at times it can be hard to know, like, what do I do with all this? Begin with one idea, one image, one feeling. something that speaks to you, that calls to you and tugs at you and makes you feel something. Because that's what's going to lead you deeper, is that feeling of there's something in there that you need to express, that you need to say. And words themselves are not enough. Or the music itself is not enough. That's the beauty of a song. We have lyrics and the voice as a complementary language to enhance the whole experience. What else do you need? Well, you need these parts of a song, these components that make up the music. So I just kind of touched on this, but the lyrics, the words, right? The melody, this is that line you sing with your voice. The harmony, this is, the instrumental accompaniment, the chords. And this can be done in so many ways, but, like the guitar, the piano, the ukulele, it could be a simple drone, but, that accompaniment to the voice. It could even be other voices, but we're not going to get into that because this is just you and your idea. What else do you need? Song structure. This is the way that all those things are organized. So when you put the lyrics and melody and harmony together, then those moving parts need a framework or a structure. So this is kind of like the structure of a poem. The verses, the chorus, a bridge, an intro, an outro. And these elements are also, they have their own creative liberties to them. So you can play around with these. But these are the parts. These are the parts that make up the song. So you need your idea. And you need the lyrics, the melody, the harmony, and then the song structure. How are we putting all these things together? So that means verses, chorus, bridge, intro, outro. Okay. So those are kind of the moving parts and pieces that you're working with to begin with. But how do you begin? How do you start? Well, there are so many ways that this can happen, because this is the creative process, right? So you can start with a melody. And if you're starting with a melody, you're kind of beginning with vocal improvisation, right? That vocal play. You can start really simple, just a cappella, humming, just your voice. But you can even play on top of a drone. I've spoken about this before, but a drone is just like a single note or a single chord to, just kind of give it a foundation or like a home base. Yeah, let's say it that way, to kind of give it a home base. But you don't need that. You can be humming a melody in your head and begin opening it up through your voice by itself. So maybe the melody comes to you, a little piece of a melody. Maybe you follow that to see where it takes you. You can also start with lyrics. So think of like writing a poem, incorporating those pieces of the structure, the verse, the chorus, the bridge. And, the details of all of those parts, that's another episode for another day. But you start to see the basic framework of how it's put together. So beginning with lyrics, think of it like you're writing a poem. your storytelling. There's rhyme and there's rhythm, and it doesn't have to rhyme. This is your creative expression. So follow that inner voice and what it wants to say. You can start with the chords, the harmony. So, like I said before, maybe it's coming to you by strumming one chord on a guitar. Maybe you're playing with a little riff on guitar, and that kind of leads you to bring it into your voice. And so you're, moving on from that riff and strumming some chords. But it could be one chord on the guitar. You can start so simple. Or ukulele, use a drone track. Like, it can be so simple. One chord on a piano. 2 notes, 3 notes on a piano played together. Beginning to build, use these building blocks to create the harmony. And then, starting to build a chord progression or like a pattern of chords. So to begin, you can start with a melody, you can start with the lyrics, you can start with the chords, or maybe pieces of all 3 of these are coming at you all at once. That's the beauty of the creative process. And it can be different for each song. Or, at different times it comes in different ways. Question number 3. What about musical skills and knowledge? So I've talked a little bit about melody and harmony, these terms that we use in the language of music. I've talked about guitar or piano, using an accompaniment instrument. But what if these elements just seem too overwhelming or intimidating, or you don't have a deep understanding of them? And to that I say, the songs in your heart, that you feel, that means you have an ear for it. So follow your ear. Your ear can take you so far. And aside from just having a natural ear for it, because maybe you don't feel like it comes so naturally by ear. Well, you can do simple ear training and build those aural skills. And those are things that can be learned and simplified. They don't have to be complex. But if you learn these simple building blocks, it can help you to translate what you do hear. And as far as the instrument goes, this can start so simple with one chord. Most songs are made up of 3 or 4 chords. You start small, you build up the knowledge, you practice moving between 2 chords, which that can be as simple as changing one note, like one finger on a piano or one finger on a guitar. There are simple fingerings you can start with to just sing over and write a song, to just get that song out of you and into your voice. And as I say that, I think of just singing a cappella and recording it into a voice memo so you don't forget, however it comes to you. And as you become comfortable with, those small, simple pieces, you can expand. But all you really need is your voice, your breath, open ears, an open heart. This really is all you need. but you can give it kind of that home base with just one chord. And it becomes more interesting with 2 and then 3. But sometimes less is more. This is creative experimentation. Play. Number 4, how do I make it mine? Like my unique sound, my artistic voice. How can I make this different? Or not just some generic song? Well, first of all, with the lyrics, you are telling your story. So make it personal. These are your experiences, and you can tell them in ways that only you can. But there's something in there that's relatable to other people. We're all humans. So it's going to be unique to you coming through your voice as your story, your experiences. But the beauty in that is that, yes, we can relate in some way. You make it yours through the music, the instrumental accompaniment, the harmony. So you're using the music to support the story. The phrasing, the key that you choose, whether it's a major or minor key. And by that, I mean just like the feeling, the vibe, the way that you paint the text through the music. You make it your own through the melody, through your voice. So the dynamics, like how loud or soft, or the way that you build it up in a crescendo or pull it back with a decrescendo, all these artistic pieces that have to do with musicianship. The timbre, like the color, the texture of your voice, the flair, the style that you add to it. This takes time and practice to develop in your voice, but it comes through exploration. The discovery comes through exploration. Now, this is a topic in and of itself for like a whole episode, a whole series of episodes, many episodes. But it all starts with allowing yourself to play with your voice. Like letting it take you by the hand and guide you deeper into yourself. So don't push or try to sound a certain way or force it into a box. All of that, like the style, it can be refined later on. But I feel like at first, there's kind of this stripping away as you're trying to find your artistic voice. There's this stripping away of everything that isn't you. And then from there, you can begin building a foundation from the roots. Incorporating these stylistic vocal elements that you love and that you want to incorporate or give it your own flavor, your own spin, your own take on it. But at that point, you can start to build that foundation from the roots, because it's like you've gotten to the core of the pearl. You've done that stripping away of everything that isn't you, and you've come to that grain of sand where it all began. And then the refined beauty comes in layers or in pieces with time. So find what is natural, what is raw, what is real, and see where your voice wants to take you. And just enjoy the ride. This is exploration, discovery, play. Because most importantly, we want to enjoy the creative process. Songwriting is a creative journey. So have fun and express yourself. You know, your creativity will carry you further than you may realize. I know I listed a lot of moving pieces here, but each of those moving pieces can be simplified down to the bare bones. And those bare bones can be so beautiful in and of themselves. And then we build on that. So start with a simple framework and see where your ear and your voice carry you. And remember that songwriting is a skill, it's a craft, it's something that improves with practice. So treat it as such. It's a practice. You know, singing is a practice. Creativity is a practice. Songwriting is a practice. So take it lightly, but take it deep too. From that grain of sand, you can build these really beautiful layers and refine that process with time. And everyone has their own process. And it can be different, you know, from song to song, depending on how the inspiration strikes. Like I said, it starts with only an idea, a word, a phrase, a prompt, a feeling, a vision, a melody, a rhythm, a chord progression, a memory. And then you start weaving in the other pieces as you go, kind of pulling at that thread, following the breadcrumbs, trusting your creativity to guide you. This is what being an artist looks like. It's a willingness to step into the unknown and explore what's there. Yes, we have certain tools in our toolkit and certain things that we carry in our little backpack. And maybe we don't feel fully prepared. Maybe we feel like we don't have everything we need. But there's this element of trust and adventure. Trusting that you will be provided for, that you will be taken care of, that you will have everything you need along the way when you need it, each step. Often I'll say, God, I'll take care of the quantity. You know, I will take that step into the unknown again and again and again. But you take care of the quality. I was designed to create. So here I am. Sing through me. Creativity is a leap of faith. Sometimes it all comes through at once, in one sitting, like it just flows. And other times it takes years of fiddling with it, you know, stepping away from it and coming back with new eyes and new ears, a new heart. Sometimes it comes in pieces over many years. Sometimes it comes over several days of deep work. But I'm here for it. You know? It takes work to refine any craft. Songwriting is no different. But allow that inspiration to fuel you and that desire to use your voice to express yourself and that desire to use songwriting as that creative outlet. Let that fuel your motivation to put in the work, to refine your art. But start where you are and follow that thread of inspiration. And of course, enjoy the journey. If something that I said today spoke to you or something resonated with you, I'd love to hear what is speaking to you. What do you want more of? What questions do you have? How can I pour into you and speak life into your creative journey every week here on this podcast? Email me at support@reawakenyourvoice.com and ask your questions. Tell me what you're curious about, what you want to hear more about, and perhaps you will hear it on a future episode right here. Hey friend, thank you so much for listening. If this episode unlocked something in you or moved you in some way, I'd be so grateful if you'd leave me a review on Apple Podcasts or wherever you're streaming this, and share this episode with a friend who's been praying for a vocal breakthrough. Until we meet again, keep nurturing that song in your heart. Lots of love.